If you find yourself living in such a way that you are constantly managing and trying to control things and trying to really manage your human experience, whether that's your food, your exercise, your relationships, whatever it is you're constantly managing, I want to offer a little something. I had a client say to me this week that she is holding on so tightly and holding on for dear life. And I asked her, what is the alternative to that way of living? What is the alternative? And she said, it's falling apart. So on some level, she believes that if she's not holding on for dear life, that she will fall apart and her whole life will fall apart. And if I'm being very honest, I think most people that I work with, and even myself, have this belief. We think that if we're not holding it together, if we're not controlling it, if we're not managing it, it's going to completely fall apart. And I want to offer, is it possible that the alternative to holding on for dear life and controlling and managing, that the alternative to that is not actually falling apart, that the alternative is living in trust and living in a spirit of surrender? And most of us are so used to needing to control or thinking we have to that we don't even know that place. We don't even know what that would be like. We don't know where do you begin and what can you let go of and how do you let go? And I think that when life throws us a major curveball, whether that's an illness or an injury or a big loss, like sometimes when we're really struck and we are really down on our knees, we have no choice but to surrender fully. And for me, this happened during my journey with neurological Lyme, where I was so ill and so compromised that surrender was not a choice. It was all that was left to do. And I learned this kind of really deep, powerful surrender where I handed myself over, I handed my life over. But I think that this kind of radical surrender that happens when we're in really harrowing life circumstances, in a way, it's easier to surrender then because we have no choice. But to somehow surrender in our everyday life is something that is a lot more subtle and it requires a lot more finessing. Because as long as we feel like we have some kind of agency, the ego wants to hold on to the steering wheel. The ego wants to decide and wants to do and wants to fix and wants to control. So in those big life situations, when we get sort of decimated, the ego gets decimated, it's a lot more intuitive or a lot simpler in many ways to hand our life over. But what I'd like to offer to you today is, what would it be like to let go just a little? Just a little. So if you are managing and controlling and holding on, say your dial is set to like an 8, what would it be like to bring the dial to a 7? So we're not asking you to completely relinquish control, but what would it be like to let go just a little? Where could you hand it over, let go, whew, release, trust just a little bit more? And this will be different for everyone. But if you find yourself managing a lot, this comes with a lot of exhaustion. And I think that if we look deep down at what is underneath all the managing and the need to control, I think we'll see that we don't trust life fully. We'll see that underneath that control and that managing is actually fear. It's a fear that if we don't do it, nobody will do it. Or if we don't keep it together, that life actually doesn't have our back. So the seed I want to plant with you today is, what if you could actually lean back and float a little bit more? What if you can just surrender a little bit more, trust a little bit more? I hope that's helpful. I hope that is a little seed that will blossom in your world, sending you so much love wherever you are on this beautiful planet today.